Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Luby here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The weather has calmed down a bit. It's not scorching hot. It's sort of nice out, but don't let your guard down. That does not mean that our homes and offices are free of water and fire issues, but no worries. Water Cleanup of Florida will make sure if any of those problems arise, you're taken care of. Just call them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 954-579-0356. Again, as I say each and every time I talk about Water Cleanup of Florida, I do it because it put me at ease. And my wife and I, they did great work at our townhouse. I saw it firsthand. The fact that they have licensed, certified, and insured contractors, not only will they fix whatever problems, help you. First of all, their communication's fantastic. Look, when you deal with a lot of service companies, they don't get back to you right away. They sort of string you along. They mess with you. They lie. They're all over the place when it comes to pricing. None of that applies to Water Cleanup of Florida. They get back to you right away. They set up an appointment. The numbers they talk about are real numbers that you will see when the work is done. They keep you abreast of the situation. We actually had an issue that wasn't even their fault, and they just stayed longer to make sure the job was done 100%. And again, with licensed, certified, insured contractors, it looked brand new. Like, we knew where the problem was, and it was hard for us to find it after they were done. They'll do the same for you. 954-579-0356. Check them out on the website, WCUFL.com, on the socials, at Water Cleanup FL, and Google is all of our friends. They're your friend when it comes to Water Cleanup of Florida, with well over 85-star reviews. If you have the schmutz, believe me, Water Cleanup of Florida has the guts. The Miami Heat are the franchise over the last 20-plus years that has had the guts down here in South Florida. They get their season started tonight. We talked with a Heat legend and current Detroit Pistons broadcaster, as the Heat will take on the Pistons to tip off their 2023-2024 campaign, defending their Eastern Conference champion title. Grant Long joins us, talking lots of Heat and some NBA right here. The Devo Show with Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Grant Long joins us here. Of course, Grant's brother was a famous heavyweight and fought for championships. Grant, how are you, first of all? Are you in town? No, we were thinking, geez, maybe Grant Long is in town. Let's give him a call.
No, I'm not in town, but I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Good morning, my friend.
We're doing great. NBA season tipped off last night. A lot of marquee matchups there on that particular portion of the schedule, as you had Golden State going against the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers in a rematch of their Western Conference tilt there in the postseason against the Denver Nuggets, who look great. And tonight, your Detroit Pistons, of course, Grant, and I don't know, do you have mixed emotions about this? You've been with the broadcast team now with the Pistons and the organization for a while, but of course, we're a foundational member of the Miami Heat in the 88-89 season, when the ball would disappear into the hands of Ronnie Cycli, never to be seen again. How do you feel when you see this matchup?
Yeah, Ronnie Cycli, the great Bermuda Triangle. We used to call him. Hey, listen, you guys, you got to understand, it's always great to play for your hometown team, which I had an opportunity to do. I played for the Pistons, but I always tell people that, when I got my start in the NBA, it was because the Miami Heat, Louis Chaffel and Billy Cunningham, those guys saw something in me and said, hey, we want to take this guy on our team. And, they made me – this still gives me chills to this day, guys, that I was the third player taken in the organization as a kid.
Wow.
It was Ronnie Cycli, Kevin Edwards, and then myself.
That's amazing.
So to me, that was – it still just, it sends chills through my bones that I was the third player taken in the organization. And it just blows me away. So there'll always, always be a place in my heart, and I will always root for that organization.
All right. I think you're aware of this. We worship Pat Riley. I think Riley is like the greatest. You get him on a show. He doesn't do many interviews anymore with like local radio, but he used to, come on every once in a while on shows that we did. And, you're just spellbound by listening to this guy. Do you buy, Grant Long, what appeared to be some very, very, skeptical BS that the Heat had no interest in trading Tyler Herro during the offseason? Well, he held a press conference yesterday. They were holding hands. It really did. It looked like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Wow.
But I mean, any team that was going to make a deal with the Heat for especially a player the caliber of Damian Lillard was going to say what? I mean, who would you want to plunk off the roster right away? It would be Tyler Herro, would it not?
Yes.
So he was one of those. So they say now untouchable. Tyler Herro was.
Yeah.
No intention of dealing this guy. We love him.
It's what they call damage control in the NBA. Every team at some point has to do that, and no better person than to step up with the credibility of Pat Riley to say it. So come on, guys. Do we believe that? Probably not. But you have to say it, right? You have to say it.
100%.
Yeah. Well, it makes some sense. And Herro, to his credit, and I believe this. I don't know how you feel about Tyler Herro as a player, but I don't believe that he's tapped his full potential yet, and it's not for lack of trying. I mean, he kind of had a little bit of a sophomore jinx working. I think testament to the line out of the Rocky movie that women weaken legs. But bounced back nicely. He's had a couple of good years in a row, and he's 23 years old. I mean, would you project him out to be one of the top players one day in the NBA all the way around?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head, Depot. The guy's 23 years old. You can't give up on him yet. And he has shown the potential to be able to play in this league. He has a viable skill. The guy can shoot. He can score. Every team needs a guy that can do that. He's not going to be any trouble in their locker room. I think he's got some staying power in the NBA, and I think I think he's found a home. Now, let's be clear. If there's another offer on the table for another caliber or high marquee player, and Tyler Herro's name comes up, he's definitely going to be shipped away. But while you have him on your team, he's a great player to have, and I think the Heat are doing well to keep him, to have kept him, considering they didn't get Damian Lillard. They were still able to retain him. He's a good player. He's helped them win basketball games. He's a good guy.
All right, so gone are like Vincent and Strus, who emerged as typical Heat culture byproducts, where you didn't really think too much about either guy. You're wondering what they're doing on the roster, and then you see them coming up huge, as big as any superstar in key moments in the postseason. What do you see in this Miami Heat team, Grant Long, as you look at tonight's ball game against your Pistons? Luby's implying that they still should be a factor, and that maybe Spoelstra make a difference. They picked up Richardson, right, and another player, and this young kid,
big man.
what is it, Jokic or Jovic or whatever?
Jovic in year 3. Yep.
Everybody's saying he was just lighting it up in the summer league, which I don't know what that amounts to. But what do you think? Are the Heat a viable contender to emerge again out of the Eastern Conference, which they've done the last 2 years, which is pretty incredible, or gotten to the finals the last couple of years?
You're right, and it seems that over these last 2 or 3 years, the experts, so to speak, always count the Miami Heat out of the mix. They're never in the top 3 or 4. It's always Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee, and Miami is somewhere near the bottom. But they always seem to, like the San Antonio Spurs of old, resurrect themselves, and they are in contention when it comes to the postseason. So I think they've created a culture in Miami that says that they're going to just play winning basketball, and when it comes time to get into the postseason, they'll be there, they'll be ready. The Miami Heat have what a lot of teams wish they could have. They have a player, and not only a player, they also have a coach who can about maybe get them 5 to 7 wins. You got a guy in Jimmy Butler by himself can get you 5 to 7 extra wins in a season. Eric Spoelstra, the way can get you 3 to 4, possibly 5 wins in a season, and that adds up at the end of a long season. So they have what a lot of teams wish they had in a player and a coach like that. So I give them a very, very good shot at being there once again at the end of the season.
So, Grant, the big story of the season, off season, was revolving around the Miami Heat. It ended up landing in Milwaukee, which was never mentioned at all the entire freaking time. What were I don't think we really got to talk too much about the whole Damian Lillard, Portland Trailblazers, Miami Heat saga. Before we can even get into it, what was your take on just the idea of Lillard asking out and Joe Cronin telling him to go fuck himself?
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
Everybody knew Damian Lillard was going to stay or wanted to stay with the Portland Trail Blazers. He was the guy that said, I want players to come play with me. I'm not leaving here. I want to be loyal to the organization that drafted me. And, hey, hats off to him. Congratulations. I love a guy who's going to be loyal to the organization like that. But it became a point where the writing was on the wall that they were not going to continue to build around him. And maybe they were going to start and move in a different direction in a restore or a restoration or a rebuild type situation. So he had to go. Would he have worked in Miami? Absolutely. He and Jimmy Butler working alongside each other with the culture that's created there. Outside shooting is above board. And now you've got two players. And you just mentioned Jimmy, a guy who can get you 5 to 7 wins. Damian Lillard is another guy that can get you a 5 to 7 wins. So you've got two guys on your team that are capable of winning basketball games by themselves. Not only winning by themselves, but they can also impact winning with the rest of the team. That's a great combination to have. I don't say Miami lost in sweepstakes because they're still a very good team. I just think they would have been a lot better with Damian Lillard.
All right. As you might imagine, I was consulting the point spreads here, and the Heat are favored by 8.5 over the Pistons. However, I will say this, Grant Long, and I thought of you immediately as I was perusing a bunch of preseason survey type of stories, many of which ask, who might be a player who emerges during the course of the season, who's a potential breakthrough guy. And 2 of the 3 articles I read are people that were assessing this situation or hypothetical named Cade Cunningham as a guy that was going to have a breakthrough year this year. So what do we know about this guy? And is that possible? Because we've sort of been trying to figure out, what exactly that number 1 overall pick was worth to the Pistons.
Yeah, I think he's, again, health is always an issue. He's only in year 3, and like we said about Tyler Herro, he's too young to give up on him because the guy has an abundance of talent. I think he's one of those guys who will. He's definitely a key cog in any type of movement forward with the Pistons. I still think he needs another guy, another aggressive offensive guy that, like a Jimmy Butler or Damian Lillard, he needs an all-star caliber player to play alongside him because I don't think, as talented as he is, at least he hasn't shown me at this point that he's capable of carrying the team by himself. So he's going to need some help, and I think more help than he already has. He needs an all-star caliber player with him, and I think if that happens, then you're going to see the best of Cade Cunningham. But I think he's definitely a budding superstar, all-star.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of faith being expressed by the various NBA writers that I was, checking out. All right, this is one of the world's great sports mysteries. Grant, help us out with this, where, you'll have a team, I guess this applied to the Phoenix Suns for a while. It applied to the 76ers for a long period of time, and it seems like it's applicable to the Pistons, where you're wondering how a team could draft like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, year after year after year, and never really emerge as a really good team. So where are the Pistons at? What kind of team is Miami facing tonight? And would you think that there would be reason for optimism about the upcoming Pistons season?
You hear this word thrown about quite a bit in the new NBA, culture. Culture is being created, and I think that's where the Pistons are. You mentioned the draft picks that they've been able to get over the last few years. They're trying to create a competitive culture, much like Miami has, that no matter who's on the floor, that you're going to compete. And if you can do that, if you can establish a level of competition, then it doesn't matter who's on the floor, because anybody that's going to take the floor for you in a Piston uniform is willing to compete at its highest level. Now, all of a sudden, you add talent to that culture. Now you start winning. But they're in the phase now, the Pistons are in the phase of just adding players who are going to be competitive. Let's get this straight, guys. Never get it confused. Where you are drafted does not necessarily indicate the talent that you have. And I think a lot of times people get that mixed up. Oh, he was drafted number 1. He was drafted number 4 or 5. That means he's a very good player. Not necessarily. Stephen Curry was not a top 5 pick. Now you go back and look at it, he should have been a top 5 pick in the way he's playing. So the pick, where you get picked is not necessarily an indication of just how good you are. And I think sometimes we get that confused.
Oh, no doubt about it. That would be an essential truth. The other weird story with the Pistons, I guess, is the acquisition as a new head coach. Monty Williams from Phoenix. And, it was kind of strange. And Phoenix had reason to be disappointed with their overall result last year after the acquisition of Durant. But nonetheless, it seemed like Williams he was highly heralded as a coach. And then the surprising aspect of the Williams to the Pistons story was that they paid him as if he was the resurrection of Red Auerbach. So, which is not uncommon, with coaches today. But what's that story? How's that story playing out in Detroit, where they're very astute and serious basketball fans?
Hey, listen, it was $75 million, and that was not the first offer.
Huh.
And they came back with the second one, and it was jumped up to 75. And it was one of those, hey, I can't turn that down, and he didn't. But I think in hiring a coach and giving them $75 million, it also tells your fan base that you are ready to make a move toward winning. When you spend that type of money on your coach, you're telling your fan base that this is the guy that we want. He's going to turn our organization around. So let's buckle in and get ready for this ride. Now, the fan base here in Detroit, they're excited. They're enthused about what's going on. Also, you have to think about Monty Williams. He was with the Phoenix Suns for 2 years or 3 years, and he got them to the NBA Finals. So I don't think he got fired.
He did well enough to keep the job.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he got fired for not doing a job well enough. I think he got fired because, if you remember, the team got sold in the new ownership. Wanted to bring in some of their own people, and I think that's where he just got caught in the business of the NBA, not because he wasn't doing his job.
Isn't that the owner that was running out on the court trying to get like LeBron's autograph?
The
guy seemed like he was a little bit, as we would say, Meshuggah. Yeah. All right. So that was an interesting story because, you would also have thought that since he did get canned by the Phoenix Suns, that he wouldn't necessarily command that kind of salary unless other teams were also trying to, secure his services. But, an interesting situation there, too. So that'll be a lot of fun, Grant, following Detroit. So some other things, and we appreciate you coming on the show. The marquee matchups, they had a couple of good ones last night. And I have my New York Post in front of me, and they are just absolutely Lady Gaga over the Celtics coming to Madison Square Garden tonight to meet the Knicks. Both teams fueled by tremendous optimism. The Knicks are finally winning a playoff round, the first since they had Earl the Pearl Monroe and DeBusschere in there. And, the Celtics, a lot of people's choice to win it all this year, with Jason Tatum even getting some support for MVP. So the question would be, are the Celtics being overblown this year? Luby hates them like poison. and are the Knicks going to be talking about, acquiring Joel Embiid? They're already hinting that this is something they want to do before the season is even 1 game old. So what do you make of those two storylines?
Well, you ever notice the Knicks always seem to make headlines, whether they're good or bad? 100%. They're going to always be.
They're after everybody. Yeah, everybody's going to the Knicks.
Just because they're the Knicks, they're going to always somehow get some type of write-up somewhere.
Yeah.
But again, they made the playoffs last year, so again, there's a reason to be optimistic there. But I think the Celtics, they are not being overhyped. They have a very good team. They made some moves over the offseason. They got rid of a key defensive player in Marcus Smart. But I think overall the team has improved, and I think they are looking to make their move. If it doesn't happen, remember, they dumped a whole lot of money into Jaylen Brown. If it doesn't happen this year, I think this team is going to be broken up. I think they'll start to separate the pieces. But this is their one shot to try to win it all. And I think they're geared up for that.
You know what I love? They're already offering packages up, hypothetical packages up for Joel Embiid.
The Embiid thing
this is next to the article about how the Knicks have something to prove this year. And there's a sidebar story here. And they say, well, Rose would give up 3 players among the group of Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and Evan Fournier, who don't they want to dump Evan Fournier desperately?
Yes, they do.
But,
I would think so. He turned out to be an unfortunate acquisition. All right, I'm watching the Nuggets last night. Should we just concede them the title? I mean, how competitive is it going to be this year, Grant Long, in the NBA?
I've heard rumors that Jokic is even better than he was last year. That's scary. If he
was good last night.
Boy, and he didn't even look like he broke a sweat.
Triple-double while he was just kind of fooling around.
They said he lost a little weight, so he's going to be a little more agile. That won't be hard to do. He was a little heavy last year, but he was MVP. He did win the championship. And the only thing that surpasses your your delight and your hunger to win a championship is winning another one. And I think that's where they are right now. They're trying to prove that it wasn't a fluke. They got all their pieces in place. I think they're coming right back, and I really don't know who's going to have anything to say about it against it. Maybe the Golden State Warriors, now that they've added Chris Paul, may have something to say about it, but I don't think anybody else in the Western Conference is going to give them much trouble. But listen, let's not count San Antonio out, because they do have the number one pick. He is playing well. I think he's going to make a difference in San Antonio with Greg Popovich.
Who will be better, Holmgren or Wembanyama? It sounds like everybody's lean is towards Wembanyama, but is Holmgren being overlooked? Because many people also feel that Oklahoma City is going to be a good team.
They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of young talent.
Yeah.
I saw Holmgren in high school, and I thought he was a very, very good player. I thought he would do well in the league. He got hurt, obviously, unfortunately, his first year. And those two are going to be compared throughout their careers because they are similar in body styles. Yeah. I think they're both very athletic for their size. This is not the days of Sean Bradley. Remember Sean Bradley was tall, and everybody talked about how agile
everybody was happy. He went on that kibbutz or whatever he was on, when he was out of basketball for a while.
They thought he could do some things, and even Kristaps were that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
one of those
Porzingis.
guys that they thought was going to be. Yeah, Porzingis. He was going to be one of those guys. But I think Chet and Wembanyama, these guys are completely different than the two players that we just mentioned, and I think they're going to be compared throughout their careers. And it's hard to say who's better than the other because both of them are very good players.
I'm sure you're familiar with the actor Donald Sutherland, the old guy who's been in like 800 movies. Is he not going to be, or has he already been signed to play Greg Popovich? Because Pop is morphing into looking like this guy. And we were kind of surprised he stuck around until they drew that number one ball there. While Detroit was getting pushed back to, number 6? That was some stiff job they gave you. You may as well have had Elgin Baylor representing the organization there at the draft. They always dealt that man some bad cards. That's for sure. All right, it's going to be very exciting, Grant Long. And now you're going to be doing the pregame shows and postgame and intermission shows with the Pistons this year?
That is correct. That is very correct, and we're looking forward to it. Hey, listen, we got a reason to be optimistic. Our Lions were in first place last week.
Oh, your Lions.
They lost to Baltimore Ravens, but they're not in first place anymore, but they're playing pretty good football.
Yes. You'll be unhappy to hear this. I gave them out on a handicapping show I was doing yesterday as my best bet of the week.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, I figure they bounced back off that loss. And Dan Campbell, I mean, have you ever had a coach of like Dan Campbell's type where, he might eat a live boar to motivate the team before the game? What do you think of those kind of guys? I mean, basketball coaches tend to be more intellectual and talking all kinds of bizarre philosophical platitudes. But, I mean, this is a hardcore football coach. The city must love him.
Oh, absolutely. You got to remember, Detroit's a blue-collar town.
Yeah.
He understands. Dan Campbell understands that, and he's saying all of the right things. This guy came out last week and he said, hey, don't jump on our bandwagon now. If you weren't with us 2 weeks ago or at the beginning of the season, don't jump on it now. So he's talking a lot of smack, and everybody's stepping up, and they love him. He's been well received here, and they're going to get behind this team. Listen, we've not had this type of success with the Lions in a lot of years, and everybody's excited about this team right now.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the locker room is like a sports book. If it wasn't for that, it'd be even better. You're in depicting Detroit as a blue-collar town. I'll never forget this. I was moving out to California with another friend of mine from college, and we're driving a Chevy Vega. And somehow we were in Detroit about 2 a.m. in a neighborhood that was, somewhat suspect. And I stopped the car at a red light. And all of a sudden, the car is moving. And my friend says, hey, you can't go yet. The light's red. And it turned out the car had been surrounded by a bunch of guys that didn't look like especially these weren't people that were going to be performing in some choir anytime soon. And they had lifted up the car and it was moving, on its own.
Oh, so you got the welcoming committee.
I don't know how we got out of it. I don't really remember all of the details, but I think there may have been somewhat of a beating involved also. So yeah, Detroit was, it was a tough town of all the places that you could get trapped in, and that was, the 70s. I'm sure they've cleaned it up quite a bit. since then. Anyway, Grant, always a pleasure,
Yeah,
my
man,
friend.
Grant, thanks
It's
for doing
always a
this.
blast talking to you. You're among our all-time favorites on the show, and of course, entrenched in the hearts of Heat fans forever, as you said. No one could ever forget that inaugural year. And we thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Okay, guys, looking forward to it even more this season. Have a great day.
Thanks, Grant. We'll talk
All
soon.
right, very good.
I always enjoyed talking to Grant Long. Not only he played for the Heat, one of the early players played in the league well over a decade, but he's been an analyst for the Oklahoma City Thunder when they had Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. He's been an analyst for years now with the Detroit Pistons, a native Michigander, native Detroit. Grew up, played high school ball there, played his college ball, I think, at Eastern Michigan. He knows the league, and he's a lot of fun. We love talking to him, and he holds a soft spot in his heart for the Heat. Like he said, was their third player ever selected to join the franchise, and he knows the organization well, and he always speaks highly of them. What's funny is the media always forgets them, and I don't put him apart, the media, because he himself said, look, the national media always forgets the Heat. I don't know why. You have Spoelstra, you have Jimmy Butler, but you also have Bam, Tyler Herro. I love that. Look, I'm tough on Tyler Herro because he has a lot of talent, and I've seen growth, but I know there's more there. And that's what Defoe and Grant were talking about, is there is. Defensively, I don't know if he'll ever be a stud, but he's already better than he was 2-3 years ago, and there's room to grow. And again, when you have a Jimmy Butler, when you have a Bam, two of the best defensive players in the league, you don't have to be an elite defender. You just have to be a good team defender. You have to be able to help out. You can't be a total sieve to where you hurt them. And Tyler was that last year. And it looks like he's put on some size. He's really taking this offseason seriously. He's not mad at the Heat. He's mad at the league. Because there was a lot of teams. He's mad at the Blazers. The Blazers didn't want him. The Heat do. If you can get Damian Lillard, I mean, again, I've talked about this. If you can be the crux of a trade, and he would have been the centerpiece of a trade for a top 10 player, I mean, that's a compliment to Tyler Herro. The kid's 23. Damian Lillard's in his 30s, and he's one of the all-time greats. And the Heat believed Herro was good enough to go and acquire Damian Lillard. They wanted Herro. They would have done everything they could to keep him. But Lillard's another level of player. Well, you lose out on Lillard, but you get to keep Herro. And he's 23. And he has a favorable contract. And he has a chip on his shoulder, which I think he's going to have a great year. And I'm excited for the Heat season. Tip off tonight versus Detroit Pistons. We are every morning on South Florida Live, YouTube, and Facebook. Just check us out, 8 to about 9:30 every single day. We'll also do something more national on nofilter.net. Check that out, The Morning Briefing. Go to Caffeine, just search Caffeine TV, The Morning Briefing. That's Defoe and myself. We also have a national podcast where we have more fun conversations in and outside the world of sports. The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search after hours. And our South Florida SKU content right here. The Defoe Show with the Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.